What's going on, guys? BASSFZz here. Now, I saw a couple of videos revolving around catcalling and street harassment, and I thought I may make a couple more videos around this topic once again, right, to really highlight some different things that I saw. The next video is probably going to be a video response, so stay tuned for that. But I remember a couple of months ago when the street harassment video first came out, I made a point in one of my videos that some women actually seek out catcalling, that some women actually like it. But the interesting thing is I have not seen anyone, not saying that it hasn't happened, but I haven't seen it. So by all means, show it to me if you've seen it. But I haven't seen a lot of people highlight the very real fact that some women like catcalls, or that some women seek it out. So in the description box, there are a couple of articles where some older women have written about how they like getting catcalls. But in today's video, I'm going to read a couple of comments that I saw on a Jezebel article. So again, you can go in the description box to read different articles of women saying they enjoy being catcalled, or they used to like it, or they didn't like it when they were younger, they like it, or they wish they got it more often now that they're older. But in today's video, we're going to read a couple of comments that I saw, like I said before, of women saying that they like it. So that being said, let's get into it. I'm not going to read the entire Jezebel article. You guys can do that in your own free time. But what I am going to do is read a snippet out to give you guys an idea and to give us a place to start. So, let's start here. A letter writer tells Dear Prudence, I live in the city, and as the weather gets warmer, catcalling gets more frequent. She continues, it's annoying and demeaning, but I know I can't hold every weirdo on the street to a sensitivity class. How should I deal? Prudy's response, wait, my dear, just wait. When I walk down the street with my lovely teenage daughter, men passing in trucks will honk their horns and make appreciative kissing sounds at her. They apparently think that the prune standing next to her is deaf as well as old, yet their catcalls spark a vestigial memory in me. A couple of decades ago, I used to hear vocal adjustments from men. At the time, it was annoying, yet given their absence, I have to admit, it wasn't all that bad. Now here's a comment Wandering Soul made, and I think this is a very interesting comment because it's actually a reply to someone named Anna North, and Anna North was actually complaining about the catcalls that she was getting. So no wait, I think Anna North was actually, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Anna North is the person who wrote the article. However, Wandering Soul is responding to Anna North. Anyway, this is what Wandering Soul has to say. Seriously, I can't read these without thinking, shut the fuck up. I remember being mooed at when I was 6 or 7. I've been barked at and had strangers throw things at me from their cars. I'd love to have one guy whistle at me and say, hey beautiful. Sure, it can cross the line if a guy is following you or something. I can see how it can get scary, but that's not the case most of the time. You don't have to base your self-worth on guys catcalling you, but take the compliment and stop bitching about it. I know I'm ugly, believe me, and I'd give anything to trade places with you for a day. To that, Raisin Girl then replies, I am a fellow uggo, who would give my eye teeth, what are those anyway, to know what it's like to enjoy the privileges of beauty even if it meant I had to take the negative with the good. But, and I say this as someone who sees that girls and women who deny the existence of beauty privilege, that's my personal choice and opinion, not prescriptive for everybody. I don't think it helps to either reduce to suck it up, you get enough perks, and you can take a few pitfalls. That feels way too much like a generalization to me, and dismisses the experience of women whom catcalling, etc. is degrading or threatening experience. For starters, it antagonizes pretty girls for obvious reasons. If they want to feel degraded, strangers judging their physical appearance, even if it's positive, that's their choice, which in my experience triggers more denial of beauty privilege because they then argue that being conventionally attractive has more negative impacts than it does positive, and then everyone starts getting cross. So I mean, I think these are two pretty good comments. Interesting that she brings up beauty privilege and saying that, you certainly get privileges for being pretty. I guess maybe I have never heard a social justice warrior ever talk about beautiful privilege or like pretty privilege that women, and this is only something that would occur with women. And I don't think a social justice warrior could talk about beautiful privilege or pretty privilege, because then they'd have to acknowledge that being a woman gives you something and that you're not entirely oppressed. So no social justice warrior would ever admit to the very real fact that beautiful women certainly do get perks in life, and some of them do indeed get exploited. So let's call it what it is. But again, I think these are some really good comments to kind of talk about. The first girl, Wandering Soul, talked about how she would love to, you know, be at least be told that she's beautiful on the street one of these days. Another girl is saying that, well, I mean, if a beautiful girl feels that it's degrading, it's degrading. Well, I mean, by I don't know, and I disagree with that aspect there. That if you feel it's degrading, then automatically the person is demonized and it's a terrible thing. I feel like that's ridiculous. Because if we put it bluntly, your feelings can be wrong. To put it bluntly, sometimes you can feel wrong or you can interpret something incorrectly. There are several times I used to think that a lot of people were really angry with me or hated me. I used to think that a lot of people didn't care about me, but that just wasn't true. I had lots of good friends and lots of people who loved me and wanted to see me succeed in life. But I felt like they didn't like me. Me being personal, I felt like they hated me, and that just wasn't true. And so, I mean, being older and looking back, I can see that I was wrong there. So just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean that you're right. Your feelings are not always right, and that's a lesson I had to learn personally, experiencing life. So, Raisin Girl comes back and she says, if a stranger verbally expressed their approval of my physical appearance, it would make my fucking day. Nay, my week. Nay, sometimes possibly my month. But maybe that's because when strangers holler at me, it's always, whoa, ugly bitch, rather than, hey, beautiful. This is just my personal experience, and I am empathetically not saying that everyone should agree with it, but sometimes I would gladly take the inconvenience of a few wolf whistles and leers if it also meant I didn't have to deal with the negativity ranging from invisibility to outright hostility that comes with being conventionally unattractive. Please note, I am not negating or dismissing the experiences of women for whom catcalling and street harassments are degrading and threatening experience. I have no doubt that they are. I am not suggesting that they are the price pretty women should suck it up and pay for the benefits of being pretty. This is just a view from the other side of the fence. It's only my individual view, not everybody's. Grass is always greener, etc., etc. Here's an interesting comment from El Cunado. He says, obviously, catcalls have different implications for women than for men, but as a dude, I can honestly say that the few instances in which I have been catcalled were fucking awesome. It doesn't matter how vulgar or smooth they are, or how drunk the girl was. All did wonders for the old self-esteem. Then a guy named Sakahammer comes and says, I can co-sign this, although the kind of attention I got was rarely verbal. When I was working at Schmo, I used to get my ass pinched once in a great while by extremely congenial females. Then I went to grad school, and it ended. And since then, I've occasionally thought that I totally would not mind being on the receiving end of just one more butt pinch, simply to relive the old days for a moment. Here's one comment that puts it best from Jayla. Confessional. On days when I'm not feeling thrilled to be me, I will intentionally walk by a construction site to get a self-esteem boost. I judge me for this too. Skyhammer comes back to reply to Wolfabeast, says, well, I'm a dude, so it's not realistic for me to aspire to be treated with the same level of respect as a woman. No stranger is ever going to hold a door for me, pick up something I've dropped, let me cut in line ahead of them, or say something nice about my appearance. I'm just happy that the dudes who shoulder into me to prove a point, that it's their sidewalk, I guess, don't usually want to start anything with me because I'm a sizable individual. Nevertheless, there's no self-esteem boost like a bit of attention from the gender that turns your head. Myself, I savored and jealously hoard the attention I receive it from women because it makes my day every single time. So if a woman admits that a similar type of attention makes her day too, then I'm not going to hector her about internalized misogyny or some other grade school claptrap. I'm going to honor what she says about enjoying a little self-esteem boost from time to time because that's a feeling I've recognized too. So these comments were all very old, about 4 years old. Well, going on 4 years old in a couple of months now. They're very old, but I found the article, online, and I just kind of wanted to read the comments and, really highlight the fact that, not everyone feels the same way about, catcalls, and that some people, can separate it, can tell that there is a clear and obvious difference between being groped, between getting your butt slapped, between someone following you, and someone paying you a compliment or someone whistling at you. That those are two completely different things. And if you see from a couple of girls themselves, and there are other comments on there, but most of the comments on there, I didn't read them specifically because I'm trying to highlight that some women do like catcalls. However, it's it's very clear at this point that a lot of women don't. So that's why I didn't read any of the comments that showed the women complaining about it. And it's really funny because some of them are complaining about the most mundane comments ever. And some of them, are talking about when some guys have followed them around in their cars and whatnot. And again, I completely understand that is very unsettling, and that's a separate situation. And that's one thing I want to highlight here in this video, that these women, that these girls, and even the men, some of the men that I read on here, very clearly understand that there is a difference between someone shouting, "Hey, beautiful," and someone walking behind you and trying to grab your butt. Those are two completely different things. And that some women, once again, do seek out the nice compliments that they get, and that some of them like it. It's not a broad stroke, it's not a broad term that all women hate catcalls, because that's just not true. It's just demonstrably not true. And so while I cannot create a pie chart or, like make a statistic of all the women who like catcalls and ones who don't, it still is evident that some of them do. And it's funny that the older women are the ones who usually tell their daughters or the younger women that you might miss that attention when you get older. And it's the more unattractive girls who are saying, I wish that I could be pretty for a day, or I wish I could get, "Hey, you look great," just one time. And that's what I said in my last video on catcalling. Hopefully, as always with some of these videos, I hope that if any woman, any feminist walks by, I want you to understand it's a matter of perspective. Not everyone has pretty privilege, not everyone looks great, and some people are lonely, and some people would love to get a little bit of attention every now and again, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get attention from the opposite sex. There's nothing wrong with that. There's everything wrong with being desperate about it, which is going to be in a video coming up very soon. However, there's nothing wrong with wanting attention from another person. It is perfectly fine. It's just being desperate about it, which is a problem. But none of these girls seem desperate to do much of anything. And so again, just to wrap this video up, I hope people get a matter of perspective from this video, that catcalling, street harassment, it's not always harassment. Sometimes some girls would love to get some attention off the street. So with that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And if you did, man, go ahead and click that like button. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. And as always, have a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.